Oh, what's up, everybody? Fighting Foolishness podcast. Parker and Shay. How you doing, Shay? And Kosh has decided to enter the building as he likes to do at some point during the podcast because for any of you guys that have a pet, they're the stars of the show. And as far as he's concerned, the whole podcast is about him. So we just surrender. Mm-hmm. So with that said, today we got a few things to talk about, Shay.
A few things.
I mean, so Shay and I have been talking about whether or not to get into this Diddy Trail nonsense for weeks. I think since before the trial started, we were talking about whether we wanted to talk about the trial. Mm-hmm. And I've been quasi following the trial. I spent a couple of maybe a little bit every day listening to some of the recap of what happens. And it's kind of fascinating to listen to be honest. Because for one, I'm not gonna lie, I've never been a massive fan of Diddy. I was always like, who's that guy in the video that's dancing, doesn't seem to know how to dance. He sings, but he doesn't know how to sing. He's like, yeah, same move, right? Like that, right there. And it's like, every time I was seeing him, I was like, why is he there?
It was so easy.
And so I always had a feeling about Diddy just based on that. But to listen to a lot of the allegations that are being made about Diddy, and most people have seen that Cassie video where he's in the hotel, they're near the elevator, Cassie is attempting to get away from him. He body slams her to the ground and beats her right there. And then they both go back into the hotel room where she came from. And there's a whole story around that. And I'm gonna say all day, this is an opinion podcast. Details matter. So if I get a little detail or Shay gets a little detail about something wrong, we'll make sure to correct it. But ultimately, there were so many things happening around Diddy that surround even what happened with him and Cassie's ex-boyfriend Kid Cudi and blowing up cars and all this stuff. And it's like this is like a movie. This is I don't know if it would be a good Lifetime movie or a bad Lifetime movie.
I actually don't think it would be, I don't think it qualifies for
Lifetime.
Because it has a whole lot of gangster elements to it.
So Tyler Perry. Maybe.
No, Tyler Perry's gonna end with some church and
there's no church here.
There's no church.
There's no church.
I don't. Even with there being no church in this, I don't see any real redemption in it either. Mm. And I think
that I would agree with that.
I think that's part of why I'm I'll see the stuff and I'll literally read the thumbnail. I'll be like, what the hell?
What the hell?
Yeah.
No, well, in what you're saying, I think it's interesting you say that there's no redemption in it because in any case, I mean, you never expect for a defendant to just fold, right? I wouldn't expect for Diddy to just fold. However, most do. In all fairness, most people plea bargain out of these things.
True.
And Diddy is up there there's an answer for this. And it's fascinating just the logic because a lot of people talk about the RICO statute because they got him on RICO. Mm-hmm. And I think I understand why they use RICO, but a lot of people, they hear RICO and they think gangster. They think the mob. Mm-hmm. And they're like, how is Diddy the mob? And you're charging him with RICO? This isn't RICO. At best, he's a bad guy that's a domestic abuser, is what they say. That's what they say. Right?
Okay. So I haven't been following the Diddy case, and the things that I have seen, definitely RICO-ish. So because I'm not. So it's interesting. The domestic violence stuff, and even the wild sex parties where people are hopped up on stuff and
the laced baby oil.
I didn't.
It was that was what I heard, that the 1,000 bottles of baby oil that they found in his house were laced with drugs. That's what I heard.
Wow.
For entertainment purposes only.
Wow.
We got to say that.
Okay. So, anywho.
Yeah. There's that.
So, Okay, so one of the things that I heard about is how there was a lot more weight to the East Coast West Coast beef than what we knew. And there was someone who testified. I don't know who, because again, I refuse to allow myself to fully be engulfed. Yeah, to fully embrace it. Because I'm one of those, how's he charged on RICO charges? Well, I saw this thing that was talking about how he was in California somewhere. I'm not going to say LA, but probably LA. Suge Knight was somewhere. Diddy told his bodyguards, whatever, hired people who were with him to grab the guns. There's
always a story about him grabbing guns with bodyguards and going someplace. Like that's a theme of this whole thing.
And of course, and Suge Knight Suge Knight was at Mel's Diner eating a burger.
Yeah.
Someone saw him. Someone told them.
Yeah.
Bodyguards.
They rolled up.
Yeah. Suge Knight was already gone when they got there.
Yeah.
So that right there, that reminds me of a scene out of my favorite mafia movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a scene in Equalizer when Denzel Washington's character, Robert McCall, is sitting in the diner and the Russian mob comes around to handle business.
Okay.
And they have to get out. I was
like, so Equalizer, John Wick, they move by themselves. So
that's true.
They move by themselves.
Sorry to disrespect Equalizer and even equate Equalizer
so I was like,
with Diddy.
No.
I mean, that was disrespectful on my part.
I was like, no, I'm thinking of Bronx Tale. Goodfellas. Here's the thing, guys. Let me also include, oh my God. There's a deep part of my spirit that needs to have a gangster movie watch week. So in regards to Rico, let's get back on topic.
Yeah, let's get back.
Yeah, so there's that. I know. There was the prostitutes that were flown in. Mm-hmm. And so that means that they were coming across state lines, which then automatically, it then immediately changes the dynamic. Mm-hmm. Then I watched this thing, which I didn't know enough. I didn't know Diddy's history.
Me neither until this. Outside of he was always the guy in the video doing stuff.
No, I don't. I don't even mean relevant to us history. I mean, I mean childhood history. And there was an episode or something I allowed myself to watch that said Diddy's father was that guy.
Yeah. Yep. That's true.
Diddy's mother was that woman. Well known, you don't play with him. Diddy grew up and being good parents. Diddy grew up going to private school, Catholic school, attempted to join a gang that didn't even do bad stuff, basically. Mm-hmm. And so always wanted a level. It was as if in personality wise, he was always attempting to have a level of street cred that he didn't earn, that his parents attempted to shield him from except via known associates. Just because his father was killed in that lifestyle doesn't mean that he doesn't still have the protection.
True.
So, knowing that someone will move in that way, that would mean that he didn't necessarily have access to folks who are just going to pick up the gun and go. Something I didn't consider in the midst of this. We all knew that Diddy shot that girl in that club. She testified against him. Witnesses disappeared. What is his name? Noriega? No, not Noriega.
I know who you're talking about, but I don't remember his name either.
I know.
Was it
Shine?
Shine there.
Yeah, Shine. He did the time. He's now a politician and still don't talk about it. And he's like, it is what it is. I'm not gonna say we all know because that's giving y'all. Anyway, I'm gonna keep my trauma.
Well, I mean, ultimately, what I think actually happened, just from a purely practical standpoint, is that the statute of limitations on most of the crimes that are alleged against Diddy have passed. So they literally can't prosecute him on most of the things, if not all. I think the only crime that doesn't really have a statute, there's a few, but one of the main ones, murder, doesn't have a statute of limitations almost
He has
anywhere.
a murder charge on him?
No, but I'm just saying, like, statute of limitations are things that we have to deal with, and from what I heard someplace, like, most of the charges, like the battery charges against Cassie, they can't prosecute him for
like 7 years
because it happened almost over 10 years ago,
easily, if not more than that.
And a lot of the other charges, they're not able to go after him on. And what it seems is like, okay, so they say RICO was for mafia people. That's when it was originally developed, but it's been used over time for various different types of crimes, from white collar crime, just various different things. They like to
use it on rappers right now. That's the big thing.
Well, I've seen them using it against rappers, like, locally, like in Georgia, but I haven't seen. Have you seen federal charges?
Does he have federal RICO charges?
Who, Diddy?
Yeah.
This is federal.
Oh, okay.
This is all federal. These are not state charges. These are federal charges.
Which makes sense because it makes it easier to prosecute because he's a billionaire because he hit the billionaire list who can move around the world.
Yeah. Well, and when it was crazy because when he wanted to get out of jail, because he's in a federal detention center in New York, and when he wanted to get out of jail, he offered up everything. He offered up his house, like $50 million, bond, his jets. He was like, I'll stay in my house and I won't go anywhere except, and the only women I'll talk to are my baby mamas or something like that. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. And they were like, no, thank you. You can sit in jail.
Well, it's no thank you because you don't have, well, one, what's interesting to me is at this point, it feels like it's been going on for months. I know it hasn't. Yet it feels like it's been going on.
You mean the trial or just the trial? Just the fanfare around it? The fanfare has been going on since late last year. That's when they raided his houses. That's when we got the baby oil and all the things. That was like, I think November, December last year, I think.
Well, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
No, I just mean the trial feels like that. Yeah, in the midst of this, my concern is, why is he the only one who's taking, like, and I think that's another part of me not really in
one with what do you mean?
Like, in the midst, I remember maybe December, January, someone from Diddy's, so one of the victims from Diddy's trial attempted to file suit with Jay-Z, against Jay-Z. Mm-hmm. And Jay-Z said, if I did what you said, try me criminally. And because they refused to identify themselves and they refused to do it criminally, which, whatever, statute of limitations, there's 1,000 reasons why they may not have done it. Yet, as big as Diddy was, he wasn't the only one there in the midst of the things. And so maybe they're just trying to take him down as low as they possibly can to start attempting to get other people. Yet the parties that he had, like, even with us not having social media,
we all knew about him.
Not only did we know about him, well attended, and there's so many celebrities. I wasn't at that party. Okay, you weren't at that party. Maybe you just didn't stay long enough because, the parties could have lasted days. Like, we don't know.
Well, okay, but there's a couple interesting things about this party, right? So first of all, with the parties, from what I've heard, because I say most days I've listened to recaps, the parties are not even a major theme of the trial.
Okay.
It's focused mostly about domestic abuse. It's a focus around his potentially bombing Kid Cudi's car because Kid Cudi was dating that Cassie, and Diddy broke into Kid Cudi's house. And put his dog in the bathroom, and then called Kid Cudi from inside of his house, talking about where you at. And then, I mean, there was this whole thing, and then
I have my weird question in the midst of it is, he put the dog in the bathroom and traumatized the dog. What was said. I want to know what the hell was done to this here dog.
Well, I do too.
Like,
because
how did you traumatize the dog? Did you spray baby oil for it to look up? Like, what the?
You know what?
Like, what the hell?
Hold on. Let's finish this one point first, real quick, because we got to lose this because it's important. Because even in his songs, well, I'm going to digress a little bit, but I'll circle back. Even if I remember the lyric in his songs talking about after the party, there's the after party.
Yeah.
And so what a lot of the celebrities who went to the party would go, like even Cat Williams kind of alluded to it, and what a lot of the celebrities are saying is that they would go to the party, but they would not be at the after party. And so like, and all the shenanigans happened at the after party and at the party after the after party.
I was going to say.
Because,
everybody knows that.
Yeah,
after the party.
Right. There's after party.
And after the after party,
there's another one. And so it's like at the third after party, and what most of the celebrities say is that they go to the party and they leave. And even Arsenio, because I will never forget, there's a YouTube video of Arsenio Hall. The best advice that he will give to men. You need to listen to this advice. Especially if you are partnered and you are a man, he's like, do not go places without your wife. Because that will keep you out of a lot of trouble. Because he was like, he's been a Diddy party too. And he went with his wife and he left, right? It was like he left at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. And so whatever was going on at 3 a.m., he wasn't there for. And that's like the out for a lot of the people. They're like, yeah, we weren't at the after party. We might have even stayed for the after party, but we weren't there for the after party.
Because the after party probably had 6 people.
Right.
Because there's 6 people. There's 4 who don't know to go home.
Right. Well, but what you find listening to this trial stuff is that the most of the allegations, like I said, are around the abuse. It's around coercion.
Okay.
It's around the development of this kind of attitude and energy about him, where he was an authority figure for all of these people, especially women, and how he abused that authority in a way that was very harmful for people, mostly centered around alleged rape. And even when it wasn't rape, still coerced sex, which in some areas would still be considered rape, and abuse, various other forms of abuse, and whether it be financial abuse, like holding people's careers and paychecks over them, a lot of Harvey Weinstein level stuff. And what I think, the reason why I think they're using RICO is because they can't use most of the other charges because they've aged out due to statute of limitations. And most of the stuff that he did through other people. So his hands actually aren't on a lot of the stuff. He always was working through somebody else. And so like the only thing that we've actually directly seen him do is beat Cassie on the video. But a lot of these charges, it's like he's using his assistant to book escorts and prostitutes to come over. He's using his assistants to get drugs. He's using his assistants to do all these things. So he's at an arm's length with everything, which makes him very difficult to touch. And frankly, I think that was the original purpose of RICO to begin with, is because that's how the mafia behaves. That was the thing with the mafia. Like everybody worked through the capos and lieutenants and made men. So the main made guy you could never get to because he didn't ever touch anything.
And himself. He also didn't own anything. So you can't so they would try and go after these guys and they wouldn't be able to touch them. And that's kind of how Diddy's setup was. And I mean, to be honest, like that's what he
And he even used some of the women that he abused to do these things. Because they've got Cassie booking the prostitutes, right? Like, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
I don't know.
I don't know how many seasons there were, but we watched them. Everybody
Making
knows. Yes.
Oh my God.
Everybody knows about go and get the motherfucking cheesecake.
Yes.
And, like everybody saw that choreographer. What is her name? She's still a choreographer.
She is. I remember her. I don't remember her name.
It starts with a D.
Yeah.
Yeah, like everybody saw how she looked in the first season to how she looked in the second. And I personally think I'm just gonna be nice and say he stressed her the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, well
It's not the most pleasant work environment.
Yeah, like
for somebody to thrive in.
And like just had the realization. Mary J. Blige was there.
A lot of celebrities were there. Everybody.
No, not at the like. She was a part of that. She was a part of that late, like that first group, and I remember like how she talked about everybody wanted her and Casey to get married. So was it Casey or was it JoJo? Casey. JoJo was the other one. Yeah, wanted her and Casey to get married, but it was a cracked out abusive relationship, and I'm like, and that was happening in the midst of the things, and all the music is being made, and there it is. Mm-hmm. Yet, even like as we listen, as just thinking about like the making the band and the various people with the various. Wow. When my kids would get on my nerves, I like to say cultural things that they have known, and so I'll be like, "Go get me the cheesecake," and they're like. They're like, what cheesecake? And it makes me laugh. It makes me laugh and stop and try to like calm myself down from being
because it's hilarious.
Like, walk and get the cheesecake.
But they need to get the cheesecake sometimes. That's
they do.
Yeah. But they're not on Making the Band.
They're not on Making the Band.
Yes.
They're making Young Men.
Yes.
Therefore, they need to go and get the cheesecake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And make some grilled cheese sandwiches too.
He made quesadillas today. It was the funniest thing. He was like, they were so amazing. Okay.
Yeah, cheese and a tortilla.
We made chicken and it was the thing. Okay. We've done things. Okay. So anyway, so from a 50,000 mile view of all this, I'll say that this is like the dying of the things.
Yeah,
and
we're seeing that everywhere.
We are, yeah. And when I was thinking about Mary J. Blige, it made me think about Etta James, and I was like, oh, that's horrible. And oh my goodness, she's my favorite. Is it Tammy Terrell? Tammy Terrell?
I don't know.
Marvin Gaye and.
That sounds like Tammy Terrell.
I believe it was Tammy Terrell. And she was killed by her boyfriend. He beat her and killed her. And Marvin Gaye was never quite right after that. Yep, that was her, Tammy Terrell. And so I'm thinking about just how the music industry is and how... So before coming over to watch the podcast, I scrolling Instagram. This woman, I guess she's an influencer or content creator, whatever. She said, y'all want me to say something about Diddy so bad. I can't say nothing. And I was like, what she mean she can't say nothing? And she was like, in my past relationships, she said, y'all, and this is why I'm choosing to be single for life. I'm like, what is she about to say? She was like, if a man did something I wouldn't do, I will knock him the F out. I was like, she said, so I can't say nothing because I just hope and pray that nobody decides to drag me along as I get more famous. And I'm just like, oh, yeah.
Wait, so she said she was the guy, she would beat the man.
She was, she said every relationship. I said every one of them. Wow. You didn't learn, like, You didn't work on some.
Oh, she did work on it by choosing to be single.
Yeah, I was like,
like that's a revelation.
I'm like, wow, okay. And she was like, I don't want anyone to. She said, I don't want to talk about it because if I happen to have to go through it as I get more popular, and I was like, I understand the sentiment. Yet, it's interesting to see Diddy, who changed his name to Love last year, I think. I don't know. I don't know. No, so the reason, but no, think about it.
That's even Russell, in the court documents. Yeah,
it is.
I think so. Like
as
an AKA.
Okay. Well, Russell Simmons and becoming this Buddhist guru and all of the sexual whatever things that were quietly handled.
Well, I don't know that was all that quietly handled, because even with Russell Simmons, like, he's not in the country right now, I think, for a reason.
Oh, he's not in the country?
He's been out of the country, and this is something to verify, fact-checking people, but he's been, like, out of the country in, like, Bali or somewhere. I don't know exactly what country for a while, and I think it's in the middle of some legal stuff that he's dealing with. Wow. With some of these chickens coming to roost with him, too.
Wow.
I think. Yeah, so that's something to be verified. We want to be very responsible on this podcast, but
does he live?
Yeah, I don't think he's been here for a little while
now. Ooh. Yeah.
What does it say?
I didn't like how it started. So his primary residence is in the Hamptons. He also has other places in New York City. It's the title of this one says, "Where does Russell Simmons live? The Def Jam co-founder hides in Bali." Is the title.
Yeah. See?
And I'm like,
yeah. And it says hides for a reason, because there's a like a lot of these allegations, types of allegations that are coming out around very sexual abuse charges and other assorted things. He's been very much touched by those.
Okay.
I don't know all of the details, or like state, federal, or if it's just people accusing him of stuff and nothing's come of it as far as any actual charges. I don't know any information, but
okay.
I know it's a thing.
Okay. He built a retreat over there, and so that's where he spent most of his time.
Yeah.
It's called the Disneyland for yoga and vegan food.
Okay.
I hate it.
The dumbest thing
I
I've heard
hate
all day.
it. Yeah.
like I didn't know about the Disneyland. He lost me completely with that. For yoga and vegan food. Just, yeah, that.
The initial Disneyland part.
Yeah.
Just to wear the Disneyland.
Yeah.
So it's like kids. Like there's kids. Oh Jesus. Anyway. I know.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, moving right along. Yeah, we can just tie that up like that. So the Diddy thing is something is an interesting happening right now, and I think that's why we decided to talk about it. Like a lot of I haven't heard, to be honest with Diddy, I have not heard anybody actually defending Diddy. I personally haven't heard anybody like, yeah, why are they? It wasn't like with OJ where people were like, half the people were like, let him go. I haven't heard that kind of energy around Diddy. It could be because we're tired just because of everything that's happening in the world right now. But that's a potential explanation. But I also think that there's something about this that's a little different. And I think that there's a heavy chickens are coming home to roost with Diddy. I really do think that there's that air, and people might nitpick like, okay, why are they charging him a RICO? I don't get the RICO charges. And mostly people need to talk about something, so they're going to talk about that. But RICO was designed for to deal with arm's length criminals who did all their work through other people, and that is what this is. Ultimately,
May said on his podcast yesterday that he was thinking about going to He said if he gets put on the visitors list, he would go and check on him. And he said he would go check on him.
Because he's a minister now or something, right?
I'm not going to lie on this podcast. I don't know.
Okay. No, I don't know either. I thought for some reason he's doing something with his life.
No, I know he... That requires research and all. Yeah. So anywho, he was a minister. I know he's doing well with his podcast, him and Cameron. Cameron asked him, why is he going to go check on them? And he was like, in situations like this, you just want to check on people. Yeah. That's just love. And I was like,
that's just love.
In the midst of this, I appreciate that someone who knows him is saying that.
Yeah.
Because it feels like
firing squad.
It just feels like he is by himself when no matter what you say in regards to him, he was always bringing other people forward. So it's not like there's people who have their careers and have built their legacy with him. Therefore, ain't nobody gonna check on him. Ain't nobody gonna say.
That's fair.
Yeah, in
the middle of all the foolishness, that is a fair statement to make. Yeah, he wasn't there doing nothing, and this whole case is about how. And that's not to be an apologist about anything. Yeah. Because I think that was a theme of the music industry. And that's what, honestly, that changed with the internet and Napster and streaming and all these things where these artists could be, you could make a way for yourself as an artist alone where you don't need a label, but anybody that was in charge of a label up until that point had those careers in their hands, and they are the ones, good, bad, indifferent reasons, that shepherded those careers along. Even if what they were doing in shepherding was illegal, they are still the ones that did that.
Yeah, and that was the dying away that I was talking about. Yeah. I feel like how we're gonna operate as a world, and we can just microcosm it down to America. How we're gonna operate as America is going to drastically change. It's just a matter of what are we choosing out of that. And in fighting foolishness, it's our job to actually raise the next generation that thinks about how they behave in the world in a different way.
Yeah.
Just because our world created Diddy, yet our world created all of the bad things and all of the good, and we can't cheer for the good without acknowledging the bad.
Yeah.
And so
and what's and the thing about that, and this is something to chew on as far as what's happening in the world right now, especially in the United States, is that in order to acknowledge the bad, you have to show it. And the thing with Diddy is that everybody kind of knew, but nobody said anything. And even when you watch kind of the people, everybody, including Kid Cudi, who allegedly had his car bombed by Diddy, said that they would only talk under subpoena. No, that there are very few people, and I haven't heard of one. That doesn't mean there wasn't one. I just didn't hear it. I haven't heard one person voluntarily show up to talk about this, and all of them, even the stylist who had to pull Diddy off of Cassie, said that he did not want to be there in that courtroom.
Yeah,
and that he was responding to a subpoena. He didn't want to be there. All this stuff, and it's like, and it's so funny that the stylist was one of the only people that actually intervened when some of this violence, actual beating, was taking place. Like Diddy punching Cassie and had her by the throat or something like that, something that was clearly not a loving gesture. And the stylist is one of the only people over this entire trial that we've heard that actually stepped in and did something. Other employees were around, didn't do anything. Security people around, didn't do anything. Because this was made normal.
Yeah.
But you have to show it. Like, you have to show, and there will be people that are made examples of, frankly, in that. And I'm not even going to say, I don't want to say it's not fair, because if he did it, he did it, you know, and if he's the example, he did it, right? So somebody's going to be the example. And I think that we're watching that in a lot of places right now. It's like people are being put on display. We're being forced to talk about it in very pointed ways. Like I said, I've not heard one person actually defending Diddy, not a one, and I think that's because everybody knows. I think that they know that we have to chew on this as a society. Like, this is what we're creating,
and they also have to chew on it as people, because they didn't intervene. And you know, I remember as a teenager joking about Kid Cudi's car getting bombed. Like, he scared him so bad he made him wear dresses. Like, that was a joke.
Wow.
Yeah. So, like, no one, and I'm like, I'm not there. I don't know. But I watched snippets of Wendy Williams on her show talking about how Cassie must feel, because apparently her contract with Diddy had ended, because, you know, he had, and that's something that permeated into our culture, because I remember there was contracts that people would write to be in relationships, and so their contract had ended, and so she no longer had to be in a relationship with him, and she was in South Africa or something like that, and Wendy Williams said, you know, that must be, she's trying to go as far away as she possibly can, and he's sending her flowers. And she said, and Wendy Williams explained it in a really cool way. She said, I know it's hard to think about, but imagine you're dating someone who has unlimited resources.
Yeah.
And she said,
and most people have no framing for what unlimited resources actually means.
Well, and she took it a step further. She said he can charter a plane privately and land on the roof of her hotel, pay off the staff in the hotel, so that he can be waiting in wherever it is that she is. And I was like, and just hearing that, and I'm like, yeah, I actually remember hearing that in real time and thinking, that must be rough for her.
Well, and just today they were talking very directly about the video, and the video of him beating Cassie at the hotel. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but literally tens of thousands of dollars were exchanged between Diddy's people and the staff of the hotel to buy that video and to bury it. Like, he actually paid the hotel, because of course the hotel people knew, because it was on their cameras, and he paid to bury it. And like, the security guy got, the number I heard was $30,000, and this is for entertainment purposes only, because don't quote us on any of this stuff, verify it for yourself, please. But the number I heard was $30,000, and the security guy went to go buy a new car, or a new used car, a new to him car, with this money so unlimited resources, like, that's half a year or a quarter of a year's salary for most people. So like that's like most people's brains can't even comprehend
somebody walking up to you just with a bag of money.
Yeah.
And you know that bag of money, someone walking up to you and solving 6 months worth of problems.
And just sign this NDA and hand me that video. And that's why this is RICO.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Which is a perfect segue into the second
planes,
topic.
Trains, and automobiles.
Yeah, that right there. And this is kind of, I in some ways I feel like we're late to the party, but not really, because I think this is a constant conversation for the country right now. And I think I've been reluctant to get into certain topics, but it's like, well, why not? I mean, it's there, and it's something to talk about. And it's the new Trump Force One, quote unquote.
I won't call it that.
Well, I am, for lack of some whatever else to call it in this moment. But
A plane that's going to cost America a whole lot of money.
A whole lot of unnecessary money. So they're in the news. I think this was within the past couple of weeks. The U.S. government accepted a $40 million 747 from Qatar, and it was the the King's airplane,
Mm-hmm.
and it had been sitting somewhere for a while because the King was bored with it or whatever. Like he didn't want it. He chose to get rid of it. So he offered it to Donald Trump as a gift. And Donald Trump, and mind you, this is very much and it's unkosher. It's not like the US president is not supposed to take gifts from a foreign government, but I digress. It's in the midst of a much larger conversation. It's really not a conversation. I think that's the problem of presidential airplanes, because there's actually 2 new presidential airplanes that have been ordered and have been under construction for years from Boeing. And so those are already slated. And I think, I don't remember exactly when they're slated to be finished, but ultimately, when people hear like $400 million free jet, you can use it as Air Force One, the Qatar government's leftovers as Air Force One. A lot of people in the middle of all of this government waste conversation and government overspending conversation and all these things, I think it's something that piques people's ear. They hear the number 400 million and they say, they think, ooh, I don't know what they're thinking. I really don't. But it seems like they think that they're trying to sell it like this is a gift and it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And it's some of the most absurd things that I've heard ever. And what I'll say about this is that what I feel happens a lot with government, period, and this is on both sides, is that politicians do a really good job of, I'm not going to say tricking or gaslighting. I think those are slight. In some cases, that's exactly what it is. But playing on the ignorance of the public.
Excuse me.
Because I know a little bit about airplanes. Mm-hmm. I'm not an aircraft engineer or an expert, but I know enough about airplanes to know, 1, they're extremely expensive, and 2, governmental airplanes are so expensive it would boggle most people's minds. Like the large. I call them carrier airplanes because they're so huge, but some of those airplanes are like $1 billion a piece just for the airplane. And Air Force One is an airplane that I want to say, I mean, we can look up exactly how much the existing Air Force Ones are, but those are airplanes that are easily $1 billion airplanes, if not more. And I think the new ones are getting into the $2 or $3 billion. And so when people hear 400 million, I think that people think that, oh my God, like the government's going to save money and get this airplane and that's going to be some benefit. And that's just not how it works. And it's interesting, it just boggles my mind listening to some of the things that I listen to about this, because let me just share what I do.
Oh, wow.
What did it say?
So,
I see $5.3 billion.
I got to get to that one.
Okay.
So there is a contract that was issued to Boeing in 2018 to convert two 747s to new Air Force Ones for $3.9 billion. In 2019,
was it the cost overruns?
Yep.
Yeah.
In 2019, the Pentagon came in and said, "Oh, guys, we're sorry, we were wrong," just to the tune of 2.7 million or something like that. So it's going to be 5.3 now. Billion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 3.9 billion.
And that's per airplane, or is that for both of them?
So both testing planes. No, it's for both of them. 5.3 for both of them.
So that's roughly like $2.65 billion per airplane. Okay. So let me just say, this Qatar airplane stuff, which is why it's so obnoxious to me, is that in order to actually create Air Force One, they have to take an existing airplane. And I don't know if they're newly constructed. They said they're converting two existing 747s to be Air Force One.
Yes.
Right.
And it says it's estimated. And this is just an estimate because remember our first estimate was 3.9 for the two planes that then went up to 5.3. They're estimating that this $400 million plane is going to cost $1 billion to upgrade. Estimated.
It's way more than that.
So I'm like, I want to devil advocate this so much, but there's so many things. So my thought is something that I just read that irritated me in the midst of it is because it's Air Force One, we don't know what will be paid for to be put into that plane. Let's start there.
What do you mean? Oh, you mean in terms of defense systems and other things like that? Or what do you mean by that?
Mm-mm. I mean, it's Donald Trump.
Oh God,
he'll have a jacuzzi.
Yeah. He's gonna have gold plated.
He's gonna have gold
things. Because he already has gold toilets. He already has gold toilets in his airplane. In his airplane, he has a gold sink and a gold toilet, I believe.
Yeah.
And in his house, he
maybe
has
that's
a gold
why he's
toilet.
getting rid of the pennies, so he can take some of the copper from the pennies and like bang it out. Anyway,
yeah, you never know.
I never know. Yeah, I need to
Painted
go buy
gold,
some pennies.
It's still a metal.
It's still a metal.
Right.
Yeah.
But
elevators, which are standard for Air Force One.
Well, it's a huge plane, so it's gonna have an elevator in it.
It's gonna have multiple.
747.
Yeah, it'll have multiple.
So, if they have space to put multiple elevators in,
because there's one for staff. There's
true.
One, yeah. You have to think of.
So ultimately, okay. So here's the thing that most people don't.
This is what makes us stutter.
Because I think I'll bet the $1 billion is just to prep the airframe before they start to build the Air Force One out of it. Like that cannot be the cost. Because what happens when they get an airplane, especially from a foreign government, is they actually they cannot use the airplane as is. They
have to pull everything.
They have to literally dismantle the airplane.
And that probably includes the outside of it as well, because you have to make sure that there's no spyware
or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of things so they have to strip it down completely. That's pull out all of the interior, all the finishing, all of the guts of the plane. So it's just a shell, and then from the ground up.
You have to take the shell off.
Fine.
Yeah, like it. So you're just gonna have a frame.
So you'll just have an airplane. It's not helping the situation.
No, I'm just saying. I was like, please,
and then rebuild it from that place, right? And then on top of that, they put in anti-missile systems, the flare things that you see in the movies, where like if you got a missile and they're trailing the plane, like it releases flares to trick the missiles, and
secondary guidance.
So they have to put all of those systems in, and so essentially those $2.65 billion Air Force Ones, it's actually going to be more expensive to retrofit these airplanes or this airplane that he just got, and then. What I heard, and this is something to be verified, but what I heard is that once he leaves office, there's a clause that he gets to keep this plane.
It's going into his presidential
library, which basically means he gets to keep the plane.
Yeah. Which
it's like there's some times where like there's going to be. You can't have a system without having errors, and errors in a government look like corruption. So there's no way to have a system without some form of corruption. The question is, what is it? How much is it? Who's doing it? And who's doing it? Is it an employee taking a stapler home, or is it an employee bilking the company for thousands or millions of dollars to the point where you destabilize the whole company? All of it is corruption, just at different scales. And so with this, it's like it's like I know we've got half of the country that's like in a very much I don't give a f stage. Like what's his name? Steve Schmidt says that Donald Trump is a philosopher. Fuck you. And this is like one of the biggest. It is the most brilliant statement. I was
like, wow.
It's like when I heard that, I was like, damn. Like I cannot argue with that at all because that's become the game.
Yeah.
But this. I'm like, yeah, it sounds to the ear like it could be Donald Trump is being fiscally responsible.
Can I play devil's advocate?
Please.
So what if he just put it in his library and let it sit until he got out of the office, and then they did, and instead of them converting it to Air Force One, they just clean it, make sure that it's right.
So that's still illegal. But if they would just say that, because they're billing this as Air Force One, the presidential airplane, which is Air Force One, like it can transport him. And if they would just say we're going to shelf it somewhere, I mean, it would take out a lot of. It's still not a good idea, but it would. It's a horrible
idea. Huh? It's a horrible idea. Yeah. Do I care after he gets off?
Yeah, I don't care. Honestly, I don't.
No, he can be wiretapped and whatever else.
It's just the nonsense of it all.
You know what
that's
he's gonna
really
have
silly.
in the plane?
Okay.
He's gonna have an incinerator in the plane. Because he got to burn the documents that he don't care about taking it.
Right, burn him at 40,000 feet.
Yeah,
Yep. Okay. Nobody's ever going to find these. It's like, wow.
Global warming's real?
Yeah.
Who says?
Yeah, who says?
Yeah. No, he's going to use an incinerator to help fuel the plane. Because he's going to make the plane a coal-powered plane.
A coal-powered airplane.
Yeah, because, we got to be up high. As we destroy the ozone.
You know what? That would be a great comic strip.
Would be.
We want royalties if whoever makes that one.
Yeah.
But
can the Boondocks people make it? I mean, y'all got time.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I mean, y'all got time.
Yeah.
Maybe the Simpsons people.
Y'all are creative.
No, Simpsons people don't make it because we really want to have an ozone layer, and y'all like to predict stuff.
They always predict something. like everything, all this stuff. It wouldn't shock me if there was a Simpsons episode where the president got a new airplane from some foreign country.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know, like that's a big deal to me, just in terms of like the purpose of the podcast and just looking at like. People hear 400 million and they hear free, and it sounds good because the average person isn't thinking in $400 million terms. They're thinking like in terms of their own kitchen table issues.
For me, it sounds like winning the lottery because that's what those are the lottery.
Those are the lottery numbers.
Those are the lottery numbers. And so, like, who cares if someone... And something that I've realized, because with me having teenagers, the movies that we had in the 90s and the early 2000s were so good. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying remake them. Please don't remake them. I'm just saying everything. Yeah, they run out of ideas. It's okay. Have any new ideas. It's okay. It's okay that y'all got no any new ideas unless it's fantasy. Fantasy, they can come up with stuff. Anime and fantasy, they just
make it up. That's a great idea. Let's put it in the movie.
They green and purple and change color to red when they
sure. Sounds good.
Sounds good. Let's do this. Go back and watch some of those movies. The one that's popping into my head is Clear and Present Danger. I haven't actually. It's been a long time.
All the Tom Clancy movies are great.
Yeah, all of them. All of the books are great. Yes. Go back and watch Outbreak.
Please go back and watch Outbreak. No, please go back and watch Outbreak.
Was it A Few Good Men? Was that the?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't handle the truth.
You can't handle. I'm
gonna rip your head off and piss in your dead skull. You messed with the wrong Marine.
like, I realized
the classics.
Yeah, like, and I refuse to even call them classics. I feel that our generation, which, please, I think I'm a millennial. I'm in between them X's and the millennial, so I think I'm a millennial. He's definitely an Xennial, but I don't know. Anyway, us, I hate to say it, guys, I think we're a little bit smarter in regards to what's going on in the world.
We are.
And connecting the dots of what's going on. One, our teachers, for lack of better words, they whatever they were passionate about, they taught us about. So number one, first of all, please have your kids watch freaking Captain Planet. Please. Jesus. Please.
Yes.
Maybe some old Sesame Street.
Yes.
Like old
Mr. Rogers too.
Yeah, yes. Some of the old stuff, because I was telling my kids, I said, I understand why y'all like the cartoons that you like. They're silly. They're funny. They're supposed to be. And
they're dumbing them down.
They're making y'all stupid as hell.
Incidentally, to pause real fast about Mr. Rogers. So there was a point years ago because the Republicans have always been trying to defund PBS. Always. It's NPR, PBS are always like, why are we paying for this? And Mr. Rogers had to go to Capitol Hill. And I think he testified. And he testified. And it wasn't even a long testimony. It was like 45 minutes or 2 hours, something. It was, in the scheme of testifying, it wasn't that much. But he was actually a pastor, right?
Was Presbyterian?
Something like that.
Or Episcopalian.
I don't remember.
I vaguely remember that, but okay.
He didn't lead with that in his show at all, but he knew the gift of delivering a message, and that's the point of him being a pastor. So he got there on Capitol Hill, and he taught and he educated the people that were making the decisions, and PBS got back all of their money. Like that, like it wasn't after he was done with them, there was no question. And I don't know who those people are right now to remind that, but I don't think they want us to be very smart right now. I think that because just like that's the goal, right? Just like with the $400 million, like all you hear is $400 million, but it's because you don't know about airplanes. And I only know about airplanes because I like them, and I know that they're absurdly expensive to act, like in practice, to actually deal with.
Oh, I'm sorry. I remember my stupid comment that I was going to say to
go for it.
So my stupid comment to say was, the planes in San Antonio, yay, there should be some more jobs, right? Please. What
I actually think is going to happen, I think it's just what you said, but the still responsible people in government just aren't going to say that that's what they're going to do. They had to take the gift, because once he said it, he would have looked bad. Everybody would have looked bad for arguing with him, because you don't argue with the leader like that. But I'll bet that it's just going to sit someplace for the next 4 years until his term is up. And until it goes to his library, and it's going to be like, oh, there's this plane. It was slated to go to the library. It's been sitting on the tarmac. We flew it once a month just to make sure, because you have to do that with planes. You have to fly them. Yeah. So we took it up in the air and down, and yeah, cool. Yeah. You can just pick it up over on lot 5, like hangar 12. It's right over there. And I don't think they're going to mess with it.
A little bit of San Antonio information, a little bit of military information. Lackland Air Force Base is there. All of the Air Force peeps stop there for their version of basic. There is a airplane museum. Those airplanes can still be started. They can technically move. Mm-hmm. That plane is welcome. As a military brat, as a Gold Star daughter, that plane is welcome to sit there next to the World War I relic, No, they're like, I believe they actually do have an Air Force
I'm sure
One
they
there.
do. Well, the Air Force, all of the Air Force Ones are sitting in a museum somewhere, I'm sure, yeah.
Well, this is a nicer one because it's outside. And, San Antonio's sunny.
It is.
Most of the time. And,
yep.
Except for climate change and we have snowstorm, but.
And that's a thing now in that area too, which is a whole situation for Texas. But that's another podcast.
South. Yeah, and because that's the beginning of South Texas. Mm-hmm. So South Texas having a snowstorm is stupid.
And it does happen now.
It does happen.
Yep.
About once a year.
Yep.
Which is crazy.
Everything shuts down.
No barbecue.
No barbecue.
No tacos.
No tacos.
It's so sad.
Just sit inside. Everybody, the people that are out are spinning around on the highway because they think that they can drive their big trucks on the ice and something great is going to happen. Like, it's a thing. It is a real thing in Texas.
Yeah. And we sit on the highway together, try to drive on the grass.
It's funny because I was driving down in Texas years ago, and because we're from an area where it snows and it's ice, and that's something we have to contend with every winter. For days at a time, you could always tell the people that were from Texas and the people who were from somewhere else because of how they handled their vehicles in the ice. Mm-hmm. It's a big thing, but we could go on and on about the
thing.
Yeah. Ultimately, ain't nothing happen with that airplane. Just so you guys know, that's my prediction.
Okay.
Nothing's happening with that airplane.
I'll be grateful if nothing happens with the airplane.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or they'll slow walk the thing for until Trump is no longer in office, and then hand it over to his library and walk away. But see, the thing about it's a 747 too, mm-hmm. and 747s are 4-engine airplanes that are also notoriously expensive to operate, even in comparison to his current airplane, which is only a 2-engine airplane and is really old. So that's why he thinks this 747 is a great idea, because his airplane is much older. The Donald Trump airplane, the one that actually has his name on it that he flies around in, is much older. And I think it's had some upgrades over the years.
I was going to say, is that his airplane?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. And I think it's had some upgrades over the years. But the 747, you really can't compare the operating costs of those two planes. Mm. Like it's probably astronomical to fly that airplane. In comparison to even his private plane. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of all this. And like I said, I don't think the government has the money to fly all those airplanes around as much as they want, but it's going to be interesting just to see, what's going to happen. And I don't think anything's going to happen with that plane. I think they're going to do something adjacent to what we've both spoken to. It'll be sitting in a hangar or in a tarmac house somewhere for the next 3.5 years. Hmm. Yep.
That'll be cool.
Yeah.
If it does.
Please.
Sit. I just want to see the pictures of what it looks like on the inside.
Of his airplane?
Of the one that they gifted him.
Oh.
So I was just wondering if there was any gold inside of it, because, I'm a jerk like that.
Well, it was the king's, and the thing, it was the king's airplane that he didn't like, so he gave it to Donald Trump. Like, it wasn't like they bought this airplane. It's actually an old airplane. They didn't buy it for him like that. It's an old airplane that's been sitting, and he's like, I don't like this. Let me give it to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will take it, and he did. And then he tried to make everybody think that it's a good idea.
Wow.
But
it is stupidly huge.
Yeah, it's 747. That's like the biggest. They would talk about when the U.S. president goes to visit other world leaders. Mm-hmm. And how big the 747 is in comparison to most other airplanes. Mm. And how it's like a statement piece. Like, he comes in on this big aircraft and it's a whole show. Mm. They would talk about that and how majestic it is. I think as far as passenger aircrafts, it's one of the largest. And there's only a few.
The Airbus is bigger.
The 380? Mm-hmm. Maybe.
I only know because I've been on one. I've been on both. The 747 and the Airbus, and the Airbus is bigger because it has upstairs and a downstairs.
Yeah, the 747 has a partial upstairs. The front of it has 2 decks.
Yeah, I saw that.
But anyway,
it's Art Deco inspired interior.
You know what? It's too much.
I'm like, are we madmen?
We are. Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, that's
make America great again.
Anyway, so for our final segment, we were going to touch on some of the happenings with the post-tornado activities.
Look, I'm like
here in St. Louis.
I know. I'm like, let me hold my fingers together like this.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. No. Well.
Where do you even begin?
So this morning, as an aside, because Parker mentioned it about Republicans attempting to defund PBS and NPR. They're currently doing that again. So I was on NPR's website reading, because every city has an NPR, just in case y'all didn't know.
They have a local NPR affiliate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So St. Louis's NPR this morning broke the news that the mayor here in St. Louis is going to said $5 million will go towards. Nope, I gotta read it because. Yeah, because that's how I feel about it. The way
we were talking about this before, right? When we were figuring out what we were going to talk about today, and that's the only. It's a sigh with your hand in your head. And you just have to massage certain parts of the head like it's going to get better, and it doesn't. It doesn't get better. You know, the more you keep thinking about it, and it just gets worse. You tell them what they said, and then we can talk about it.
I forgot about the other thing. Forgot about that one. Let's see. Where is the NPR piece? So anyway, I'll have to summarize because my little drop down isn't showing me my NPR piece. I have too many tabs open. So, STL NPR said it's not, yeah. So that's why I said I got too many tabs open because I went through and I didn't see it. If Parker finds it, I'll read it verbatim. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my summary, or you could just maybe type in STL. Yeah, type it in and see what it comes up. STL NPR, $5 million, St. Louis. We'll see. So, anywho, because I also want to Google how much in damage was estimated.
Oh, it was the last estimate I heard was like $2 billion.
Ooh.
It was at least one, but I think it was two.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So anywho, okay.
Actually, I'll use your phone.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, I pull them up all the time, so there's things. So she said that it was right there.
Yeah.
St. Louis mayor says $5 million in ARPA funds will help repair storm damaged homes. And so I was irritated just hearing that. And I said, let me breathe and give this an opportunity to understand. It says St. Louis Mayor Kara Spencer said the city is planning to use $5 million from its American Rescue Plan Act fund to help stabilize homes damaged by the May 16th tornado. And I was like, what does stabilize homes mean? Go a little further. So the initial estimate for homes that were damaged was 5,000. Now we're at more than 10,000 in 3 weeks since the storm. So on today, $5 million will be used. During the press conference, it was said that city officials identified $5 million from this fund allocated for stabilizing and weatherproofing buildings that can be used for temporarily repairing residents' homes. Why stop there? We're gonna stop there. So we'll stop there, and then we'll come back into more.
So here's my challenge. The city is literally reeling from this. There's been, from what we've heard, almost zero federal support. Usually when things happen of this scale, the federal government comes in, there's monies allocated, because this is pennies for the government to deal with in the scheme of things. Or at least nickels, maybe, but it's not a lot. But for a local government to deal with it, there's a lot of damage to the city. And this happened in the middle of May 16th, I think it was. May 16th. And we're, how many weeks out is that? 3 weeks. And my biggest concern is that there doesn't seem to be a plan, or what I would say, the word comfortable isn't the right word, but it's a word I'll use, a comfortable level of communication with the public about what's actually happening. Because that reminds me of the thing where it's like $5 million sounds like a lot to people that don't deal with these things, but it's not. It just isn't. It arguably isn't enough to even start helping. When you think about just think about, most of the houses in this area are brick, and so they're not frame. They're brick, which is a skilled labor job, and you need to have the bricks to do it. And sometimes the bricks are there next to the house; they just need to be put back, right? But ultimately, it's not a straightforward task to rebuild any of this. And the estimates because they were coming out with rough estimates right after the tornado, and it was in the billions of dollars. And you're gonna come out and say 5 million like it's an accomplishment. And granted, the news, like, if it's just news, if she was just saying like, okay, we got $5 million from over here and we're gonna put it there, I mean, maybe that's all that is, and maybe it isn't the time to give it attention. And at the same time, it's like, but what are you doing? Because I don't see an advocate. I don't see somebody that's advocating, and I would like to see the mayor advocate for the people that were affected by the storm, which took place in the area of the city that would be considered to be more blighted. Mm-hmm. And that's the concern. It's like, are you going to look out for these people that lost everything? And are you going to work at the limits of your ability to do what you can? And that's kind of my challenge in a way, I guess. Like, I'm the one to challenge, but we all should. Like, we live here. So it's like, that's what I don't see. Mm. That's what saying that without saying something else behind it doesn't seem like enough, because 5 million isn't going to make a dent.
My issue is that it said for the stabilization. Basically, it's not for.
It's a Band-Aid.
Repair. Also, in the 3 weeks since this tornado has happened, private individuals, primarily, like, everything that has been done in regards to relief has been private. It's been on volunteers. It's been it's been organizations that are not
designed to do this. It's
organizations that are for art, organizations that, like, I saw there was a comedian, she had a comedy show. And 50% of the thing, like, went to tornado relief. Yeah. It's the Urban League, which
that's not what they do.
That's not what they do. It's so for the Culture STL, they were basically compiling what would be a black book. And so she goes to local black businesses and,
And helps to support.
Like helps to support and gets the word out.
Yeah.
And, just different. And so, knowing that everything that has happened, all the help that has been given has been completely out of the goodness of people's hearts because they saw a need and they filled the need.
Yeah.
Knowing that the tarps that you see on roofs were not put up by anyone from the city. It was
donations
and volunteers.
Yeah.
Like
people saying, I'm going to pay for a cherry picking truck to go out and get the tarp up there.
People volunteering their cherry pickers.
Well, that too.
Yeah, like
or volunteering to pay for it.
Or volunteering to pay for it.
Or to rent them.
Or there was a lot of stuff that was done where they were going into homes where they would go in the home and put the tarp up, and they would use the same bricks that fell to secure people who have no experience doing anything, just being good. Stuff. And so to hear that you're going to give $5 million to stabilize buildings, hearing that it didn't specify whether or not you were going to offer that to commercial, if that $5 million had to cover commercial buildings as well, knowing that there isn't currently a process set up for people to request these things. In the article,
at least that we've been made aware of.
No. Did it say that? It said, in the next few days, you will hear.
Which means it's not there.
Yeah. And then in the next few days, we will hear from the Board of Aldermen about what money will be released from the Rams Foundation, from the Rams settlement money.
And for those of you that are watching from outside of St. Louis, when the Rams left St. Louis, I'm not going to get into the legal details. There was a lot of monies and promises for various things that went unfulfilled by the Rams when they left St. Louis and they moved back to Los Angeles. And so the Rams had to come back to the city and pay the city for those losses because they were it was all kinds of stuff, and it was in the billions of dollars, if I remember correctly, what the settlement was. And so
for them leaving abruptly,
for them leaving abruptly. And so, and this is just a sign that everybody with all these things, that there's always more to the story. There's always more to the story, and you want to make sure that you get the information and then try and look at the situation from like at least 5,000 to 10,000 feet. Because if you look at even the circular thing that's happening here, the Rams left. The Rams didn't keep their agreement. Yeah, the public was mad, but they also owed the city a lot of money because the city wasn't supposed to be flipping the bill to begin with for certain things. For them coming in, them maintaining the dome. And the dome construction where the Rams played, like all of those things, and were a part of the agreements that are made in order to keep something going. So whether it's an airplane like the Trump airplane, or the city of St. Louis with its agreement that it had with the Rams that were broken and they had to come back and pay the city. Now we're like, okay, that money is sitting in an account somewhere. And they're like, well, some of that money should go to rebuild the city.
Because it was actually to help revitalize the city.
Yeah.
The St. Louis having a sports team was a major
draw
to the city. It created all kinds of jobs. Those are jobs that were lost, which is part of the settlement money. There's businesses that were set up in the dome to do business specifically, and they lost that source of revenue because if no one's coming through the dome, then what are they?
So it's very disruptive, both energetically, fiscally disruptive. It's just all around.
It's energetic. It's very I would say emotionally disruptive as well, yes. Because to think about someone. We're not going to talk about the Rams, but anyway, just someone.
St. Louis is a very sports-centered city, and having any kind of loss with a sports team is a big deal in St. Louis.
Getting it was such a big deal.
Getting it was a big deal, and losing it was a big deal.
It was a very big deal.
Yeah.
So also, in regards to the $5 million and it being a, I don't feel it's as strong because I was not directly affected by the tornadoes. I'm not going to say it was a slap in the face to me. Yet I feel that if I had been, it would be a slap in the face. It would feel like a slap in the face. It hurts my feelings for the folks who, just empathizing. And with that said, I was reading an article. Me and Parker were discussing it about how 189 of 378 buildings that are in the area were destroyed that are currently owned by the city.
Yeah.
And some of these, let me see. So, because I like to give you the numbers. If I got them, I like to give them to you. Some of these same buildings. That's that one. But okay. We're gonna say some positive too. Apparently, there's a new distribution center that will come that came with the $5 million announcement.
I can go a little bit further down the positive, sort of. Right?
Okay. Because I was gonna say we're gonna say the positives, and then because I don't like the framing behind the
here's what I'm gonna say, because there's a lot of frustration with the mayor. And I'm not going to say that I don't have some of that frustration myself. What I just thought of, and it didn't quite click until we were sitting here talking about it, is the fact that I would be surprised if most cities were actually prepared to deal with a disaster like this. And the fact that FEMA, we still haven't heard that FEMA has shown up, people that are experts in dealing with post-disaster recovery. And because of all of the political stuff that's happening in the country right now, FEMA is at best neutered, and at worst not even a viable agency right now. Like, this is a testament to why you don't put these things on local government and why you need to have national experts that are available when something happens. Because we're not going to say they always do a perfect job. But what we will say is that this is one of those instances where, because what we don't have as the public is information. And my issue right now, and I don't know the answer, is like, what is the local government really doing to support this issue? Because it's not being clearly communicated. We also know that FEMA probably, if they come, they're probably going to come 5 days late and $100 short. Because we needed FEMA here weeks ago. And they're still not here, and there's not any indication that they're coming. So you got the mayor trying to figure something out that may be a little bit out of their wheelhouse to figure out by themselves. And then it's like, well, who's going to support the mayor? Like, who's going to, like, really? And mind you, this mayor has only been in office, like, she got in office and then a month later, like, this happens. It's like.
And when we say a month later, almost to the day.
It
was like serious. April 14th or 15th she got in office. May 16th.
And so it's like, okay, I can have a little bit of rational sympathy for that situation, and it still seems like there needs to be way better communication, because what they're saying is kind of offensive. Like $5 million without giving very clear explanations. I'm not in the direct path of the tornado. I was not directly affected. If I was affected, it was only on the margins at best. I'm offended by that.
Yeah.
Because we're going out and helping. Like, we're taking time to go out and volunteer and going to spend money in places and donate things. Like, it does affect.
Mm-hmm.
It does affect us. Even we're not trying to compare that to the people that were actually in it, but we're not on the sidelines either.
No, we're not. My issue. So my issue with the positive of there's going to be a distribution center that will be open.
Yeah, and she should not have to figure that out. The mayor should not have to figure out a distribution center by herself or with her administration.
Here's the deal.
The
private citizens figured it out by themselves. Did. And they're still figuring it out.
Yes.
If you have time, if you have any resources, donate and volunteer. Today on a Tuesday, I was like, oh, this is why they're tired. People that I had seen there when I've gone there before, who seemed optimistic and happy to assist, they're tired. Yet they're tired because they're showing up, and because when the tornadoes happened, I'm not exactly sure what happened in regards to people working, yet it seemed like there was enough, people were just able to come and help. Now, I don't even know if I saw 50 volunteers on the parking lot today.
Seriously?
It was bad. It was really bad. And that's making bags. There was 2 to 3 cars at a time dropping off stuff. Luckily, while I was there, several businesses, a diaper dispensary came up and dropped off diapers and some other stuff. Several businesses dropped off truckloads of stuff too. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, yeah, we are running out of IKEA bags. Like, it just, we ran out of sponges to give to people. Like, it was, people still need stuff.
They're going to need stuff until they don't.
Yeah, and honestly,
it could be months.
Yes.
And that's why a distribution center is huge.
That's why a distribution center is huge. Now, my issue with the distribution center, in the language that was used, and it was quoted language, the mayor said that the distribution center is being set up to help facilitate the distribution that the organizations who are already out there on the ground doing. What? Huh? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So you're going to give stuff. So we're going to have a distribution center where all the large donations can go to. And you're going to give stuff. So I drove past the Urban League today, not knowing that I was going to be driving past them. I was just going down. Something kind of told me to go down Natural Bridge. I hadn't gone down Natural Bridge. That was insane.
Was it the one by the library? That Urban League location?
Okay. No, it's off of Natural Bridge.
No, I mean it's.
There's a library there.
Yeah, Julia Davis Library is on Natural Bridge next to. It used to be a Commerce Bank building, and they have an Urban League location.
Is it on the corner?
Mm-hmm.
Then it was that location.
Yeah. So
there's a parking lot.
Right across the street.
No, further. It's on the same side.
Yeah.
Further up.
Yeah.
It was there's a Save-A-Lot that.
That's exactly where it is.
Okay. Yeah. There's a Save-A-Lot that had no cars in the parking lot, so I'm assuming they still have no power. So let's wrap our heads around that.
Mm-hmm.
So still people with no power 3 weeks later. And I'm looking at the tents that they have set up, and they're giving stuff away to people, and people are trying to drive up and get stuff and walking up and getting stuff, and I'm like, well, it's the little old ladies from the church.
Yep, that's who's showing up.
That's who's manning this Urban League thing. Yep. So for the city to have a distribution center where they're not going to actually distribute, they want to distribute to the organizations that have already stood in the gap of what is supposed to be the government coming into it to. Because truthfully, no matter how much you don't like big government,
there's a purpose for it.
I'm not even like, there's certain things that just get taken care of.
That's my point.
Yeah. And so
like that, like government doesn't do nothing like that. Like it that's the overall point. Like the government has a role.
Yeah.
And even local government do better.
Yeah. You like.
That's the nice way to put it.
People will be able to come to this distribution center to get connected to community resources. That is too vague of a statement for me. And 3 weeks later, if I don't have a home, because here's the other crazy part of this. The city had time to give people notices that they couldn't come back into their homes within 10 days of the tornado. So that was May 26th. We're now at June 3rd, and you still don't have a distribution center open. You still don't have a central point of contact for these people. Like, the government doesn't have any of the things in place. So you have people who are homeless. So like someone today like shared a shelter location. Oh, this organization has a shelter. And they were like, what are you Yeah, that's one shelter that already turns people away before the tornado every night. So if they turn people away every night, how are we magically having more space in the shelter? How are you dealing with having people who have to go to work? Also, this couldn't have happened at a worse time because now kids are out of school.
Yep.
So do the daycare centers exist anymore? Is it still there? Does it have power?
It's yeah. I mean,
is Big Mama's house still there?
That's so. It's way bigger than it seems, and I want to say something profound. I got nothing. I mean, it's like
I keep going to the mental health of the city in the midst of this. When I say the city, I don't mean micro. I mean macro. I mean the volunteers. I mean the people. I mean
the region. This entire region that we're in.
To be a bit. Oh, I didn't tell you this because I forgot about it.
Oh.
So Kansas City. Apparently they got hit by a tornado. Yet. It knocked over a tree next to the stadium. I was trying to find out how much money they were asking for. Apparently, Kansas City is asking for money to help build a new stadium. Guess what they decided to do? They decided that they're going to talk about this during the special session that the governor has called, which he gets no love from me. I'm not even going to say his name. So anyway, he gets no love. So in getting no love, I didn't know about this special session. I'm grateful he called a special session. And it said that the special session was called for disaster relief support and passing bills to help with that. Oh, okay. So maybe when we didn't see Kara, maybe she was talking. Maybe she was having conversations. Do I think it got far? No, I don't think it got very far because the things that she has said has not been helpful. What she said and what I read in this article, and I'm just what I've read in the article, the $5 million to stabilize the buildings. Are you stabilizing them enough for people to sleep in them? Are you just stabilizing them enough for they to get their belongings out? Is there any shelters? Why are you about to point people? I hate to say it. No, I don't hate to say it. Well, wow. When Hurricane Katrina came through, they opened up the stadium. We mentioned we have a stadium here. It's not being used as a stadium. It's barely being used for much.
Well, it is, but that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a new arena football team that plays there.
They play in the Dome?
Battlehawks, I think.
Oh, crap. Because they've actually been playing. And so even with me not keeping up with sports, I know they're doing well. They just won like a division something. Because I saw and I was like, oh, maybe I need to go check out a game. And so.
Yeah, that's where they play.
They play there.
Mm-hmm.
So it couldn't be opened up.
I don't think so.
Goodness.
But we have multiple. I mean, like if that's going to be the thing, and who knows what the actual requirements are?
We need an emergency shelter.
Yeah, who knows what the actual requirements are for that? Because now the city owns it, and I think the city wasn't supposed to own it the way that they own it. Because when you have a football team, they actually the franchise chips in the ownership and the maintenance of the facility, and when they leave, and I really don't think the Battlehawks have the same responsibility to that facility at all that the Rams did when they were here. So I don't know. I mean, you can use emergency powers to do all kinds of things. I don't know what the details of that are, but in terms of like making up a shelter, and I'm sure if they wanted to make a shelter somewhere, they could find one. They could find a building somewhere.
I don't know. So you would know.
Would I?
Yeah, you would know. Mm-hmm. During our game, we went and we fed people outside of this shelter. It's over there by what used to be Washington. They closed it down. Everybody knows. They said it was.
Oh, Larry Rice?
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a shelter. I'm pretty certain it's an empty building.
Maybe. I don't know what's happening with that building. I didn't even know that they shut that down, but it doesn't surprise me. I mean, ultimately, I think that what we're talking around as we talk around what's happening is just that I would hope that when something like this happens, because I think people from outside don't understand how serious what's happened actually is, and it's very serious. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it, but the scale and magnitude of what's happened is serious. Like the city is destroyed. Like all the people were displaced, and the types of communication that I think the public is getting about what's going to be done or what's being done to help, and what the plan is, even what the aspirations are for a plan. It doesn't. I haven't heard it. I haven't felt it.
I was gonna say it's not even the North St. Louis, West St. Louis. Those areas are. I don't want to take it as far as they have a distrust, yet they deserve to have a distrust for how the government treats them. That
distrust was earned.
Yeah, I didn't.
And it's a part of the historical makeup of those areas. Mm-hmm. Like they were actually redlined areas, and so that's something that is a part of this conversation. The distrust was earned.
There's a woman who has an insurance policy. And her insurance adjuster won't come there because of the zip code. And you're looking at her roof sitting across the street. No, across the street. And
that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah. And then there's other organizations who said that based on your zip code, you don't qualify for. And I'm just like, what are we talking about?
Like when we say active redlining, and that's an entirely different podcast getting into the history of St. Louis and these areas, but we mean active redlining, like food desert, partial banking deserts, and zip codes where, regardless of what's actually happening, you've got a lot of people that don't live in these zip codes that just won't come in the zip codes because they make up stories about what happens in these zip codes. Where in reality, it's one of the areas where you have 100-year-old homes, older than that actually. Mm-hmm. You'll have a house that's very well kept and pristine, next to a house that's just okay, next to a house that's in very bad condition.
And vacant.
Next to a house and just repeat that all over the area.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're in one of those houses that was very well kept and pristine, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got services that won't come and help you. You've got a lot of stories made up when you're actually in a beautiful home, a beautiful classic brick,
Mm-hmm.
gorgeous house. And you happen to be in an area that over time has been deliberately neglected by commerce and government, which is part of the story that's being made up around the response to fixing everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's ultimately what we're dealing with here. And then so it's like, well, what do you do with that, right? And how is leadership going to meet people where they are?
And not go to juke joints and dap them up.
Right. Like that's not...
Don't dance in my face as I'm looking at my life
fall apart.
And I work with people who don't have homes. They've been still coming to work. They've been still acting as if nothing has happened, and they'll just, or I'll, and I might catch a glimpse and be like, "Hey, what's going on?" I don't have a roof. What? What you mean you don't have a roof?
Still there working.
Like what? What are you? Because you still have to work because.
Then you really have to work.
And you really have to work because Parker mentioned how most cities aren't set up to deal with this. Beyond most cities aren't set up to deal with this. Most people aren't set up to deal with this, which is something we mentioned before.
Yeah.
Like to move in our economy. And that's not just a St. Louis thing. It's a nationwide thing. We have a credit system, and with us having a credit system, you have to make sure that your credit's right. Not only do you have to make sure your credit's right, you have to make sure that you have deposits to move. People aren't moving off of the weight of your word.
Right.
And so not only that, we're seeing predatory landlords who are doing things like, locking people out of their homes.
And this is an area that's ripe for predatory landlords just because of how the area is set up. And that's a thing here too. That's
why I was trying to find the thing about how many homes, because there are.
Well, and predatory, I'm going to say predatory, but I'm going to add to that predatory or landlords that are just so removed that they're not accessible.
Yeah. And also those vacant homes, St. Louis has allowed developers to come in and buy property at cheap prices who then in turn didn't develop them.
Yep.
And so those beautiful homes have low property values because they're next to public nuisances is honestly what they are. That's true.
And that makes it harder to file insurance claims. It makes it harder to value the house. Mm-hmm. It makes it harder to get the money that you actually need. Because think about this, like just to move a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, 1 or 2, let's stick at 1 or 2. Like if you were to use movers, you're talking at least $1,000 to $2,000 just to physically get your stuff and take it someplace else. And then you got to have storage, or you got to have another place to take it to. Like it's not the most straightforward thing if you don't have the savings set up to do it. It's disruptive.
And back to mental and emotional, not becoming overwhelmed to actually go through your things.
Yep. Where
nothing is where it was. And, and figuring out what's important and what isn't important. We don't live in a society that encourages us to be mindful in a way where we can easily pick up something and be like, oh, I don't actually care about this. We tie so much of ourselves into not only the things that we purchase, yet just the things that we have around us. And people coming to work, even with them not having a place to stay, that is their own, not actually having their belongings. I don't. There's no frame of reference. There's no frame of reference to wrap your. So, and that's why I didn't like mentioning Hurricane Katrina, because I know people who still can't talk about it. Yet, for the people in the midst of it, I would say that will be what this was comparable to.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
I read a story about a man who was sitting on his back porch, and he was like, it was a beautiful day. He said, and the sky went black within 45 seconds. Yep. And I was like, 45 seconds?
It was that fast.
And I'm just like,
it was that fast. I heard the stories too. And yeah. It was so fast it would make your head spin.
Yeah, and so
literally,
like, he said that he was able to get into the house, but wasn't even able to get to his basement before it blew through. And I was like, yeah, 45 seconds of, like, that's not enough time.
Well, that's when we get into the other thing that happened.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
That just didn't.
Yeah,
that didn't sound.
The sirens did not go off. That's a whole nother podcast. But yeah, that's added to the mix of all of this when it comes to how the public looks at the government right now in terms of what are you doing, and even with this business with the $5 million, it's like the ultimately what I think people need is comfort isn't the word, that I forget what it is, but people need information. People need some form of just knowing that there's somebody looking out for their best interest. And that's not being made clear based on what's happening. And that doesn't mean, like, I don't know what the interests or intentions of the administration is right now. However, there is a way to show up for people and to make it clear that they have their best interests at heart. And what I would hope for anybody who's listening to this is there's no amount of preparation that can set you up for something like this. So I think that I think that this is a time where St. Louis needs compassion. They need donations. They need for the country to stand up and really start to question what the national government is doing in terms of the actual services that people need. Because this can happen to anybody at any time. Mm-hmm. Most parts of the country are on a fault line or near a coast. And this is a statistic that baffles me, right? This statistic, when I think about it, baffles me. And I've touched on it in previous podcasts. The city of Los Angeles, which is on a coast, has a higher population than I believe over 40 of the states. The tax base is generated in that area gets funneled all over the country to pay for everything that other states need. And so if that system isn't working properly, if the government is just sitting there like all the states can do it themselves and all the people can stand for themselves, and you got people that are in the country that are standing with this idea that they got it all together by themselves, I promise that there are things that can happen in your life that can blow up that idea in 5 seconds, like a tornado, like an earthquake, like a wildfire, like a hurricane, like these natural disasters that we get really comfortable up until the point that they happen, and then our lives are destroyed. And then part of the reason why we're in a country that has a government is so that when these things happen, just like the police show up, you want the police to show up to deal with your problems. If you have a police problem, you want the fire department to show up and deal with the issue. If you have a fire at your house, we're all in this together. Mm-hmm. And somebody needs to show up and support the people when they're dealing with these things. It doesn't matter that the people in St. Louis some of them have homes that aren't worth much, and some of them have homes that are worth a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's somebody's house. And what I'm going to question is, that could be you. And everybody needs a place to go, and everybody needs a place to call home. And I could even go off on a tangent and talk about, well, people that don't have homes and don't have that kind of security. And I'm not accusing anybody, but that's when you start to have public health problems. That's when you start to have social problems. Is when people are not seated well in their homes. That's a big part of it. And so I would encourage everybody that's listening to this podcast. Again, we will put down the places to donate and the places to donate time and money and support. And I'll say a call of action to the government: get your shit together. Excuse my French, but it's but the people need to know. Like, it's one thing, like they could have a plan, they just haven't told anybody about it. It's like, share it or go out and help, show your face, do things so that people, because that's what I think the people need to see right now on all levels.
I've seen a lot of like little community meetings that they've been having lately. Honestly, St. Louis doesn't need a little community meeting.
Yeah, right. It
needs a huge community meeting because one of the huge things about this is St. Louis City is encompassed by St. Louis County, completely surrounded by it. There are resources in both the city as well as the county. Yet I haven't been in the rooms, yet I understand the conversations. And typically, when it's a conversation of, I don't believe we've seen a major outpouring of financial support privately yet. And I believe we haven't seen it privately yet because there isn't a clear plan.
Yeah.
At least if you say, hey, because, the soccer team always pulls a huge crowd out to, like, they have an area near the soccer stadium where they have, like, it looks like block parties, honestly. Like, it's like they have a block party before, it's a tailgate, but it's like a block party before the game. Just say we're going to all meet there. We're going to talk, and the same barbecuing and passing out food that we've been doing, that all these organizations have been doing. Don't worry about it. We're going to do it as a city. We're going to just have a big old thing. Everybody come. Everybody come and let's talk about, this is what we're planning to do. This is who's going to be in charge of it. And even if you don't have who's going to be in charge of it, like, this is what we're planning to do. This is what we need. And okay. And another thing, this is my own personal pet peeve, but don't allow people from outside of St. Louis to buy any of that land right now, or any of those homes, or like just put a moratorium. I don't know how to put a moratorium on the thing. And I know that these are private citizens and they can choose to do whatever they so want. Yet the additional instability, and this goes back to people not having a frame of reference for $1 million or something like that. If you were in a big, beautiful home and someone comes and offers you $100,000 and that is more than what you make in a year, of course it's going to seem like a good idea. What isn't considered in that situation is, or someone who bought a home 40 years ago, and not even 40 years ago,
or who inherited
a home
through a family.
Yeah, the housing market in St. Louis,
and anywhere, really.
There's nowhere in the United States where you will be able to buy a home that you can immediately go into
for that kind of money.
When
a house is even comparable to what you let go of. I mean, you can barely buy a condo for that, frankly.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's going to be a one bedroom. Yes, it might be one bedroom. It might be a 1-bedroom condo.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to, and I understand wanting to get back some semblance of stability Yet
it's gonna take time
to get back to honestly, St. Louis is the call to St. Louis right now in the midst of this is to create a new sense of city, a new sense of stability, a new framework for how we do all the things. Mm-hmm. And so the only way to actually have that framework is to allow the time to be just that.
Well, ultimately, just like you just said, I mean, a plan that involves actual dollars and how the homeowners are going to be and the landlords are going to be made whole. That's what's necessary. I mean, outside of insurance money and all this stuff, like that's what seems necessary. And I hope that there's somebody working on that. You know, I hope that that's the conversation now.
Kara Spencer did appoint a medical something. I saw it. It's someone he did some pandemic work during COVID. He was the head of something, like a pandemic response team or something like that. And he did something at SSM in regards to COVID as well. And it was to combat, basically to provide information. I don't know what that's really going to mean. Especially with upcoming Medicaid cuts and things of that nature. We don't know what that means for people who don't have insurance. You know, if they develop respiratory illnesses and things of that nature because they're going in the debris.
Yeah.
And it's just this is an entire
city.
It's an entire city that needs an entire approach. Yeah. Like it needs to hit all of the area, all of the sectors: spiritual, mental, physical, emotional, financial.
Yep.
So.
Well, I think that's.
I was gonna say, I'm like.
That's. I mean, so support. We will put the links down in the description for people to donate. And both time and resources, and
Well, I don't know. I honestly don't know anybody who's taking money. Is Urban League taking money?
I believe there is a few places that are taking money.
Okay.
And it's smaller organizations, but they are taking money and going out and buying things, I believe. So. We'll make sure that those to verify that and to put those links in the description. Hope you enjoyed the podcast today. We're gonna go ahead and tie it up there. I know, right? Like, subscribe, share, comment. We're gonna go for it. We're looking for 100 subscribers this week. Really, I want 1,000, but we're gonna start with 100.
You want 1,000 this week?
Yeah.
Okay, 1,000 this week.
Well, 5,000 this week.
We'll go with it. Well, whatever your first mind said.
What's
your first mind say?
1,000.
Then we're gonna go with 1,000.
1,000 subscribers.
You guys share with your peeps.
Do it.
Find us on YouTube as of right now.
Yep. Love you guys, and I hope this brought value to you. And be safe.
Continue
Everybody
to
out there.
Fight some foolishness.
That's right. Take care.